In the beginning of the story, we see some people taking a girl named Sabina somewhere. After this, we come to know that they are taking Sabina to a hospital because Sabina's mother had told them to do this. Actually, Sabina has a disease called hysteria, and in this disease, a person does many things at the same time, like laughing and crying at the same time. After a while, Dr. Call comes to Sabina's room to treat her. Then Dr. Call tells her that I will not give you any kind of medicine or injection to treat you, and we will just talk about your past for an hour a day, so that we know what problem you are having. After this, Call sits behind Sabina and starts asking her questions. And in the meantime, we come to know that Sabina's father is responsible for this condition, who used to beat her and her siblings a lot in childhood. After this, we see Call with his wife Emma at his house, who was pregnant. Then one day when Call is checking Emma's condition, he keeps Sabina with him, and in the meantime, we come to know that if Sabina's disease is cured, then one day she can become a very good doctor. After this, Call once again tells Sabina he asks her to tell about her past, and asks her that your dad beat you less for the first time. On this, Sabina tells him that when she was 4 years old, she accidentally dropped a plate from her hand. After this, her dad took her to the room and started beating her from behind. Now Sabina was in a lot of pain, but she was also having a lot of fun with it. Sabina knew that this was a very bad thing, but Sabina started liking her dad's beating her from behind. After which, whenever her dad asked her to go to the room, she would go inside quietly without asking any questions, because she also liked to do this. Now, after hearing all this from Sabina, Call also understands that due to this incident, Sabina has become a victim of this disease. Now the scene shifts here, and we see the scene after 2 years, where Call has come to his house to meet his wife Emma and Dr. Flute. After this, when Call was talking to Dr. Flute, then we come to know that Sabina's condition has already improved. And on Call's request, she is also studying medicine in medical school, because Call believed that Sabina can become a very good doctor. Later, we also come to know that the method by which Call treated Sabina, that method was invented by Dr. Flute. But when Dr. Flute told this method to everyone, then everyone started making fun of him. And some doctors believe that this method of Call's is very dangerous, which can even kill a patient. But when Dr. Flute came to know that Call has treated Sabina with his method, then he is very happy to know this. After this, Call goes to meet Sabina, and he tells her that today he talked to Dr. Flute about her. And he told her that you can become a very good doctor in the future. Now Sabina also feels very good to know this, because she herself also wanted to study medicine. Now a few days pass like this, and one day Dr. Flute sends a man named Otto to Dr. Call for treatment. Actually, Dr. Otto was a physioanalysis doctor earlier, but gradually he became addicted to girls. And now to get rid of this addiction, his father sent him to Dr. Flute. After this, Dr. Flute sent him to Call, because Call had also treated Sabina with his method a few years ago. After this, when Call talks to Otto, then he comes to know that Otto is having an affair with many of his patients. Actually, Otto believed that by doing this, he was not only treating the patients, but also supporting them to move forward in life. After this, when Call meets Sabina, then Sabina kisses him while talking to him. Actually, Call also liked Sabina for a long time, so he also doesn't say anything to her. Then when Otto comes to know this, then he tells Call that he will have to give Sabina the freedom to do everything, and he will also have to be intimate with Sabina. Now after listening to Otto, Call understood what he had to do, but at the same time, he was also thinking that Otto himself came here to get his treatment, but he himself is teaching new things to Call. After this, one day Otto somehow secretly runs away from that hospital, but before leaving, he had left a letter for Call, in which he had written that he is running away from here because he is tired of his father. So Call is not at fault in this. Along with this, he also tells Call that if he likes Sabina, then he should be intimate with Sabina. Now after reading this, Call is unable to stop himself, and he goes straight to Sabina's house, where he becomes intimate with her for the first time. And after this, the affair begins between them. Now this intimate affair of theirs continues for some time, and during this time, Sabina used to ask Call to beat her many times, just like her father used to beat her in her childhood. Now with all this, Call understood that Sabina's disease is still not completely cured. During this time, Call also used to meet Dr. Flute, and he used to tell him about Sabina's progress report. But Call had not yet told Dr. Flute that he has become intimate with Sabina. After this, when they are talking, Then Call tells Dr. Flute that he never wanted to become a doctor, but he wanted to study in paranormal activities. But Dr. Flute refuses him on this, due to which the conversation between them becomes less. Now after a few days, Dr. Flute comes to meet Call, and he asks him about the rumors spreading in the city that a girl is sending letters to everyone in the city that Call is having an affair with a girl. Now after hearing this, Call refuses them and says that he is not having an affair with anyone. Now after hearing this, Call gets scared that if anyone finds out about the affair between Call and Sabina, then his reputation will be lost in the whole city. So the next day, he meets Sabina and breaks up with her. But this makes Sabina feel very bad, and she starts acting like a patient of hysteria again. And then when Call comes to his house, he finds out that his wife has also found out about the letters spreading in the city, due to which Emma thinks that Call is really having an affair with someone. And because of this, she stops talking to Call for a few days. The next day, Sabina comes directly to Call's office, and she tells him that Sabina's mother also found out about the letters. And when she asked Call about this, Call refused her that Sabina is not his patient anymore. Now after hearing this, Sabina gets angry because first Call left her, and now he is lying to everyone that Sabina was not his patient. That's why Sabina leaves there in anger. Now Sabina needed someone's help for her medical studies, so she writes a letter to Dr. Flute and requests him for help. And along with that, she also tells him about her and Call's relationship in that letter. Now when Dr. Flute finds out that Call and Sabina were having an affair, he immediately writes a letter to Call and asks him if he really had an affair with Sabina. But on this, Call answers him and writes in a letter that Sabina was only his patient. There was nothing else between them. Now Dr. Flute believes Call, and then he writes a letter to Sabina that you lied to me. That's why I can't help you. Now when Sabina reads that letter, she feels very bad and starts crying. After this, Sabina comes to Call, who was leaving this city with his wife and going to another city. There Sabina asks Call to tell Dr. Flute about their relationship, because if Call doesn't do this, then Dr. Flute won't help him. Now after Sabina's constant insisting, Call agrees, and he writes a letter to Dr. Flute and tells him everything. Then when Dr. Flute reads that letter, he apologizes to Sabina and calls her to himself. Now a few years pass by, and one day Sabina comes to meet Call at his house. Then when Emma and Sabina are talking to each other, then Sabina tells him that she has married a Russian man and he is also pregnant. Here Emma also tells Sabina that since Call stopped talking to Dr. Flute, he has gone into depression. That's why she asks Sabina to talk to Call once. Then when Sabina is talking to Call, she tells him that she is pregnant and she is carrying his child. Now after hearing this, Call also feels very good and he says I love you to Sabina. Then in the last scene of the film, when Sabina is going back, she starts crying on the way because she still loved Call a lot. And with this story ends here.